All right, so you ready to like get your hands dirty?
Yeah.
Today we're going deep into the world of foraging, but with a twist.
Yeah, we're heading over to Israel.
You got it. But we're not just talking about, which plants you can eat and which ones will make you sick.
No, this is a deep dive into a whole community.
Exactly. We're looking at this group called Para, Adam. That means wild human in Hebrew.
And we've got some awesome material to work with.
Yeah, we've got this journalist, Roy Chicky Arad. He spent 3 days with this foraging group and wrote this amazing firsthand account for Haaretz newspaper.
Oh, I love Haaretz.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to be pulling some stuff from the group's website, to get like their perspective on things.
I think what's so interesting is this idea of like going back to nature, but also, like how does that actually work in a place like Israel, which is so modern and
Technologically advanced.
yeah, exactly. Like how you reconcile those two things.
Totally. And Roy's experience kind of highlights that tension right from the start.
Oh.
So he's a journalist. He's covered like alternative communities before, but even he was a little freaked out by the pre-trip instructions.
What were they telling him?
Okay, so no phones.
Okay, that's pretty standard.
Yeah, no toiletries. And here's the kicker. No toilet paper.
Whoa. Okay, we're going full on primitive here.
Yeah, he even joked that the pre-trip questionnaire was like applying for a U.S. visa.
So he was expecting, hardcore survivalists.
But when he gets to the meeting point, it's a totally different vibe.
What, did they all have like smartphones hidden in their backpacks or something?
Uh-huh. No smartphones, but lots of hugs.
Really?
Yeah, apparently these foragers are big on physical touch and emotional openness.
Huh. That's interesting. Not exactly what you'd expect from a bunch of people who are all about roughing it in the wild.
I know, right? It's kind of a surprising juxtaposition. And Roy even picks up on this interesting connection between Israeli military culture and this like hippie counterculture.
Okay, explain that one. I'm not seeing the link.
So in the military, there's a lot of emphasis on camaraderie, on like physical affection, pats on the back, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense in that context.
Right. And Roy noticed that the foragers had these similar rituals, like this 3-step goodbye process with designated hugging time.
So it's like they're taking this structure from the military and using it to create intimacy in a completely different setting.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, how do you balance individual boundaries with this intense group dynamic?
Especially in a community that's all about being wild, right?
And speaking of wild, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather, the lack of toilet paper.
Oh, yeah, the how we poop in the field presentation.
Not exactly a dinner table conversation.
Definitely not.
But for these foragers, it's just part of life,
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to fully embrace this lifestyle, you got to figure out the logistics, right?
Totally. And they don't shy away from it.
So what did they use? Leaves.
Yeah, the group leaders sort of gave this whole detailed explanation of natural alternatives, dry banana leaves, smooth stones, all that stuff.
Wow. Okay. That's the level of detail most of us never have to think about.
Right. It makes you appreciate modern plumbing.
For sure. But it also makes you think about the level of trust and intimacy in this group, right? Like they're sharing knowledge about something so personal.
Absolutely. And that's where the whole issue of consent comes in.
Yeah, especially with all the hugging and physical touch. They've got to be really careful about boundaries.
And Sir was very conscious of that. He even appointed a specific person to address any concerns, especially at night.
Smart move. So were there any, controversies or anything?
Well, there was some debate about whether sex should be part of the experience.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a whole other level of wild.
Yeah, some saw it as a natural extension of the communal living.
Right, like a free love kind of thing.
Exactly, while others felt it was distracting or, potentially problematic.
Yeah, I can see how that could get complicated fast.
Totally.
Yeah.
It just goes to show that even in a community that seems so unified, there are still complexities and, individual needs to navigate.
It's not a utopia, it's just like a microcosm of human interaction, just amplified by the unique circumstances.
Exactly.
Back again for more foraging adventures this time with a bit of added drama.
Oh, yeah. Things got a little intense for Roy and the group.
So we left off with them being, basically shooed away from the Jordanian border by the police.
Right, in the pouring rain.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was not a good situation.
So what happened? Did they, find shelter?
They did eventually, but it was a bit of a scramble.
I bet.
So Tur is the group leader. He was trying to stay calm, keep everyone together.
Yeah, in those situations, you need someone to, take charge.
Exactly. And he had this idea to head towards a cemetery.
A cemetery.
Yeah, apparently there was a covered area there where they could maybe wait out the storm.
Okay, I mean, not exactly ideal, but desperate times, right?
Totally. And Ray was super stressed about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cemetery at night in the pouring rain.
Plus, they were worried about being so close to the border,
Yeah.
after that run-in with the police.
Right. It's like all their anxiety is just amplified.
Totally. And I think Roy's reaction is so relatable.
Yeah.
Like he's the voice of us normal folks who are like intrigued by this whole foraging thing, but also kind of freaked out by the idea of sleeping in a cemetery.
He's like the bridge between the two worlds, right?
Exactly.
So did they actually make it to the cemetery?
They did, but you'll never guess where they ended up sleeping.
Oh, come on, don't leave me hanging.
So Roy wakes up and he realizes they're not just in the cemetery, they're actually under a funeral canopy.
What?
Yeah, apparently the local religious council had left it up, for upcoming funerals.
Oh, wow, only in Israel.
Right. It's like this weird mix of the ancient and the modern.
Totally. And it also shows that even when you're trying to escape the system, you sometimes have to rely on it.
Yeah, there's no escaping the irony of life.
So they survived the night in the cemetery dry, thanks to the funeral canopy. What happened next?
Well, the next day the rain stopped.
Of course it did.
It's like Sir had his magical connection to the weather,
He was probably just watching the forecast on his secret smartphone.
Haha, maybe. But it did feel like he had this intuition about the natural world.
Yeah, like he could sense the shifts and changes.
Totally.
Yeah.
So anyway, the sun comes out and they're all feeling a bit more optimistic.
Good, because I was starting to worry about their mental state.
Yeah, me too. But then they stumble upon this amazing discovery.
What was it? Another cemetery snack?
Uh-huh. No, this time it was an abandoned vineyard.
Oh, wow, score.
Right. And it was overflowing with grapes.
So long, avocados, hello, wine.
Exactly.
I bet they were thrilled.
They were like kids in a candy store, climbing on top of each other to reach the highest branches.
So cute.
And then Maple, the super optimistic forager, she decides to try something a little different.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
She starts chanting, oranges, oranges, oranges.
Yeah, oranges.
Yeah, she's like trying to manifest oranges.
Like the secret style manifestation.
Exactly. And get this,
What?
they actually find some orange trees.
No way, seriously.
Yeah, like not long after the chanting, they come across these 3 orange trees full of fruit.
Whoa, that's wild.
Right.
It makes you think about the power of intention.
Right. Totally. Or maybe it was just a coincidence.
Maybe, but it's a great story either way.
It is. And it kind of sums up their whole philosophy, this openness to possibility, this willingness to embrace the unexpected.
Yeah, they're not bound by the same limitations as most of us.
Exactly. But okay, let's not forget about the serious stuff, because throughout all this, Roy's also grappling with some pretty heavy thoughts about climate change.
Right, he had some conversations with Sur about that.
And Sor's outlook was not exactly rosy.
Yeah, he was using the word Shoah, Holocaust, to describe what he thought might happen.
Yeah, he sees foraging as like a vital skill for survival in a world that's, falling apart.
I mean, you can't really blame him for feeling that way.
No, it's a pretty bleak outlook, but it's a perspective that more and more people are taking seriously.
Definitely, and it makes you wonder, what can we learn from these foragers? These people who are already living closer to nature.
Yeah, like maybe they're onto something.
I think so.
Okay, so we're back with Roy and the foragers, and I am very curious about this whole swimming situation.
Me too. I mean, it's the Sea of Galilee, not exactly known for its nude beaches.
Right. So what happened? Did everyone just strip down and jump in?
Well, most of them did. It was this deserted beach, very secluded, and like out of nowhere, people just start taking off their clothes and running into the water.
Wow, that's got to be a sight.
It was like this spontaneous moment of liberation, like shedding their inhibitions along with their clothes.
I can imagine. And what about Roy? Did he join in?
He was tempted. He even talks about feeling this pull, like wanting to be part of that collective experience. But in the end, he stayed on the shore fully clothed.
Huh. I mean, I get it. It's a pretty big step, to go from being this skeptical journalist to swimming naked with a bunch of strangers.
Yeah, and I think it says a lot about his journey with the group.
Right.
He was willing to push himself to try new things, but there was always a part of him that was holding back.
Right. It's like he was observing as much as he was participating.
Exactly. And I think that's okay. You don't have to go all in to get something out of an experience like this.
Totally. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from poop rituals to orange manifestations to naked swims. What are the big takeaways here?
Well, I think it's a powerful reminder that there are different ways of living, different ways of finding happiness and fulfillment.
Right, like the foragers, they found joy in simple things, connection with nature, with each other.
Exactly. And they weren't afraid to be vulnerable, to show their emotions, to support each other.
But it wasn't all perfect, right? We saw that they had disagreements, anxieties about the future.
Of course. It's not like they found some magical solution to all of life's problems.
Right. But they are living intentionally, making choices that align with their values.
And that's something we can all learn from, I think.
Totally.
Totally.
So whether or not you're ready to ditch the toilet paper and embrace the wild, I think Roy's story is a great reminder that there's beauty in simplicity, in human connection, and maybe even in a little bit of orange-infused magic.
And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to try something new, something outside your comfort zone.
That's what we're all about here on The Deep Dive, pushing boundaries, expanding perspectives, and hopefully having some fun along the way.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.